Here's the rain we were promised.
I'm hearing some hoof steps. I guess we have some company on the trail.
There's barely enough room.
It is a rather simple offering, to be honest.
I had expected rain. What I did not expect was this much wind. So I think this amazing spread is going to keep me very busy for the next half hour.
Gracefully done.
Thank
Love
you.
it.
I was really hoping for slightly warmer temperatures and maybe a little bit less wind, but springtime in England being what it is, I really think that we have to count ourselves lucky that there isn't an absolutely huge downpour right now. But weather aside, this promises to be an absolutely amazing adventure. So we're here. It's day one. We're setting out for a 102-mile trek. So that's an end-to-end hike of the Cotswold Way, starting right here in Chipping Campden, which is just a gorgeous little village. We're going to be going through rolling countryside, lots of charming towns, all the way to the beautiful town of Bath in the south. This little corner of England is officially designated as an area of outstanding natural beauty. So you know it's going to be gorgeous views basically every step of the way. Here we are, right at the official start marked by the acorn. And we are traveling super light this time. So everything we need for the next 10 days right here on our backs. That means I had to pack a pretty lean wardrobe.
Well, my pack is feeling okay so far, not too heavy, but I'm probably going to feel a little different by the end of the day. Like Stephanie said, we've got just over 100 miles to walk, which is 164 kilometers, and I really hope that it's not pouring or super windy the whole time, but you know what, we're just going to make the best of it.
And as we go, we're going to load you up with all the tips that you need if you're going to plan your own hike. So we're going to talk about gear, we're going to talk about accommodations, food, and of course we're definitely going to cover costs. I brought these really warm gloves with me and I was really hoping not to use them.
But before we get into things any further, in case you're new to our channel, this is Stephanie, I'm Gillian. We're exploring the world one hike at a time and sharing it with all of you as we go.
The wind has been absolutely relentless this morning, but it's okay because we've just about made it to our first major landmark. So we're coming up to Broadway Tower. I see it over there in the distance. And this is an 18th century ornamental building. It's our first major historic landmark. And it has two great points about it. One, it's one of the highest points of the entire hike. And number two, it means that we are almost halfway done our first day. There's barely enough room. It is just gorgeous up here. Look at this incredible view. All right, we are almost at the village of Stanton, which means that we've almost finished our first day of hiking. Amazing. And it's the perfect time to talk about accommodations.
Are you going to show us how you pass one of these? What are they called?
It's a learned skill. I think it's called a style. Woo!
Gracefully done.
Thank
Love it.
you. So I can tell you that it would have been a lot easier to plan for this hike if there had been a lovely bed and breakfast exactly every 10 miles, but unfortunately that's not the case. So the distance that we'll hike every day really depends on where we'll be staying at the end of the day. So sometimes that's a village with a few options to choose from, and sometimes it's really just an intersection and there's just one place to stay. We did end up with a mix of Airbnbs and hotels and inns and even a pub or two, and they really range the gamut on price.
Well, I guess this is the little hamlet of Stanton.
So for our first official night on the trail, we're staying in what should be a very sweet little room in a cottage that we booked on Airbnb.
Oop. I'm hearing some hoof steps. I guess we have some company on the trail. Okay, well, we've been making our way down High Street, Stanton, which is the main street, and I think we make a left here and our place should be just up ahead. Well, we've wandered back and forth just a little bit. Didn't think I could get lost in such a small place, but we've finally arrived, so let's go check it out. And it looks like such a cute little cottage.
Okay, we have finally made it. That was a pretty long day on the trail, it felt like. So we are here in our little room for the night. This is a bed and breakfast, and we have this room over here, and it's got Gillian on the door, so it's very welcoming. And inside, it's just this cozy little room with kind of very calming colors and little antique decorative touches, and a really nice light coming in from the backyard. Lots of pillows on the bed. That looks like a really decent bed. I'm going to get a very good night's sleep after that extremely long hike that we had. The bathroom is over here. Oh my goodness, it's quite something. Who knows, maybe I'll even have a bath tonight. That's quite the clawfoot tub she's got in there. It's amazing how such a small space can be so ornate. And then we'll be taking breakfast in a lovely little breakfasting room when we get up in the morning. So all our needs are being taken care of today. Good morning. It's day 3 of the hike. We're just heading out of the lovely town of Winchcombe. We have had great fortune so far with the weather, so it hasn't rained at all. But I think our luck is changing today because I've already felt the first few drops. So fingers crossed. We've got a big day of walking today, and we're also going to be sharing all about the logistics of planning your own Cotswold Way hike. When we first started planning this hike, the question we needed to answer for ourselves was how many days do we want to take? So there are people that do it in as fast as 5, 6, maybe 7 days. And those are people who are looking for a very serious challenge. They might also be doing some ultralight camping along the way. The camping sites are few and far between, so you'd have to have some pretty long days to join them up. For us, we wanted to do it in 10 days because that gave us enough time to make it feel a little bit more leisurely. We could take in the sights, stay in some towns, and kind of enjoy ourselves.
The next thing we had to figure out was which direction we wanted to hike, because you can either go from south to north, which is Bath to Chipping Campden, or the other way around works just fine. But the logistics to get to Chipping Campden are a little more complicated because there are just really a few buses each day. So we decided to get that taken care of before we even started the hike, and we can hike all the way into Bath and have that beautiful city on arrival and have a really easy time getting back to London at the end of the hike.
Finally, we had to figure out our gear for the hike, and as you can see here, I've got what feels like a pretty hefty 34-liter bag. And honestly, I could not have done with a liter less. I have a very minimal wardrobe. I mean, I have some hiking clothes and some clothes for the evening and some toiletries, and that's basically it. Gillian has even less capacity, so she had only a 25-liter knapsack to bring, but what she did was add a stash bag to increase the capacity a little. And of course, we're sharing some items across the 2 bags. Plus, she's doing me the favor of carrying all the water, so I'm not overly burdened by this big bag. Lastly, we really agonized about whether to bring our hiking poles. Now, if you live in the United Kingdom, don't agonize about it. Just bring your poles. For us, we were traveling overseas. We really wanted to fly carry-on only, but the hiking poles would have to be checked. And check them we did, because in the end, we felt that we would in fact need them. Not only are there a number of fairly respectable hills that we would be going up and down, and we do like the poles for that. Also for me personally, carrying this 34-liter knapsack, I really thought that the poles were going to help me out in terms of weight distribution. Good morning, guys. We had a really long hike yesterday and a good sleep, and we are really ready for a big breakfast this morning. I did want to take this opportunity to talk a little bit about the food because it's been a lot of planning just to make sure that we would have meals along the way. Breakfast has actually been the easiest meal of the day because we are basically always eating in the place that we stay. Oh wow, that is a big breakfast. Thank you. Okay, this is definitely going to fill my appetite this morning. So what we have here is an English breakfast, but it is vegetarian English breakfast. So we have some veggie sausage instead of all of the meat that you would normally get. And then the rest of it is just sort of the traditional stuff. So we've got eggs, mushrooms, a little hash brown here, some baked beans, grilled tomato, toast, butter, and we are ready to go. This is definitely going to fuel me all morning, which is just perfect. I had expected rain. I planned for rain, got all the gear. What I did not expect was this much wind. We have walked 13 very long, hard kilometers, but Gillian assures me that lunch is literally minutes away. I can't wait. Lunch on the trail is a little bit catch as catch can. So for some of the days we have gone very deep in the maps and we've discovered that there is a little restaurant or cafe somewhere along the route. But other days there's truly nothing. So we're just packing up a lunch as best we can, maybe picking up a few supplies from the co-op store, and away we go. That's it. We're off for the day with whatever food we can carry. Okay, finally we see it. It's 2 p.m., which is a little later than I like to have my lunch, but that's where the restaurant is located on the trail.
Choices were a little bit limited, but we've gotten ourselves here a vegan sausage bap, and I mean, it is a rather simple offering, to be honest, but fortunately I've been able to collect up some sauces to dress it up. So we have a choice of tomato ketchup, we have a nice strong mustard, and the mysterious brown sauce that I've heard so much about and can't wait to give it a try. Okay, it says it's rich and spicy, perfect to dollop and dip. So let's see. Ooh, it's kind of tangy, maybe a little fruity. Oh yes, there's apple in it. Let's have some.
Whew. Long day, but we are finally at our home for the night. So I think I mentioned on the first day that we're really staying in a range of accommodations through our time here in the Cotswolds. So the first night we stayed at a little B&B, and that one had a little more character than I usually go for. And I'm never really a fan of a shared bathroom, but it totally did the trick for the night. Now, tonight we're staying in what I think will be a fairly typical style of inn here in the Cotswolds. So let's go take a look. All right, this is it. So it is a very simple room, I think tastefully done. It should be comfortable for the night. It's got all the essentials, comfortable bed, tea for the morning, bathroom, and we've got this view of the parking lot. So I think we're all set. Anyway, we're gonna be sleeping very soundly after that day of hiking. Oh, game changer. I've just discovered that there is a bathtub in this bathroom. So that is really me for the rest of the evening. I'm gonna be having a really nice long soak. We've come across so many charming villages during this hike. I mean, that's what the hike is really famous for. But there are a few villages that are just a little more picturesque. So we encountered one of those on our very first day. It was Chipping Campden. That night we stayed in the village of Stanton, also really, really charming. And today we are in the lovely village of Painswick. We're just about to enter it, and I can't wait to see it because I've heard it's really stunning. Oh my goodness, look at these giant hedges. I can't believe them. I've honestly never seen anything like this. We've talked a little bit about breakfast, we've talked about getting our lunches. Now let's talk about dinner, because here's where we had to do quite a bit of planning. For dinner, sometimes we've been staying in a hotel and we could just eat dinner in the hotel, and that made it pretty easy. But sometimes, like tonight, we're staying in quite a small little village and there aren't a lot of options, and we're staying in a B&B, so there's no place for dinner there. So what we had to do is book, and we had to book many weeks ahead because these places actually do really fill up, and especially tonight because not only is it a Sunday night, but it's also Easter Sunday. So we made sure to lock down a really great dinner well in advance. Gosh, this place is so cute. I love it here. This is definitely the nicest restaurant that we have been in so far Wow, this looks so nice. After so many days on the trail, we couldn't resist starting our beautiful Sunday roast with a little bit of a tipple. So we got a flight of sparkling from the driest to something a little more sweet. Cheers to Sunday roast. Oh, wow. Our meals have arrived and they are stupendous. So we both got a sort of classic Sunday roast. It has all the classic fixings. So there is the Yorkshire pudding, carrots, potatoes, parsnip. What's different is that it is a sweet potato nut roast, so it is a vegetarian version, and then the whole thing is just swimming in this amazing looking gravy. And additionally, to the side, there is a cauliflower cheese dish, and then some sort of healthy looking cabbage over here to kind of balance the whole thing. It looks absolutely amazing. I just have to dive in, get some of that gravy. Oh my gosh. So good. That is an amazing way to prepare sweet potatoes and nuts. So I'm gonna have to try something like that at home. And then that gravy is so delicious. So I think this amazing spread is gonna keep me very busy for the next half hour, and it's such an incredible way to fuel up after so many days of hiking. Here we go.
Well, the rain finally caught up with us, which I think is fair because we are, after all, doing this hike right in the middle of springtime. And it also gives us a chance to show off our very fashionable rain gear. So what I have here are rain pants. These were the very cheapest model available from the Decathlon in Mexico City. I have paired it with this little raincoat, which again was the very cheapest model available in Istanbul a few years ago. And I have my rain cover on my knapsack. This is actually integrated with a knapsack, which was perfect because I didn't want to go and buy something additional for the hike. And I'm also using an umbrella just because I think that is nice to have the overall cover as we're going along.
Well, since my pack didn't have the built-in rain cover, I decided to bring a poncho, which in theory is great. Everything is covered. I've kind of got my own little ecosystem in here, but on those windy days, I can tell you it's not the best choice.
Good morning. It is our 7th day of walking, and I'd say we're feeling pretty strong at this point. We got through our day of rain, and actually, apparently, according to the long-term weather forecast, it's going to be sunny skies for the rest of the time, fingers crossed. We wanted to talk a little bit about our training plan for the Cotswold Way. What we had planned to do was get out there maybe 2 or 3 times a week with our heavy packs and do some big practice hikes. So that's what we planned to do. But unfortunately, where we live in Canada, we were just slammed with ice storms through March and April. So we really didn't have any practice hikes at all. Instead, what we did was strength training, maybe 6 or 7 days a week, so quite a bit. And then we also did some cardio work about 5 days a week. So we were feeling pretty good as we set out on this trail. In terms of the terrain here on the Cotswold Way, I would say that this is not a mountain range. So we're not doing a steep 1,000 meters up and down multiple times a day, but we are doing some very decent hills. So I would say that we were pretty happy to have done all that strength training before we set out for this 10-day hike. The trail has been really well marked for about 85% of the time, but it's that last 15% that you really need to worry about. So we have been using an app called All Trails, and we have our GPS on that, and that's really helped us find our way, especially going in and out of more populated areas, and sometimes when we're standing at the edge of a huge field not knowing what corner we should be aiming for. So I definitely wouldn't do this trail without having some kind of backup to help us find our way.
So one of the things that I really like about this trail is just how many sights there are to see along the way. Of course, there are the beautiful manor houses and churches, but there are also more ancient sites like this Neolithic long barrow. Now, we passed one the other day, which you couldn't really make out that well because it was still a covered mound, but here you can get a better sense of what was once used as an ancient burial site something like 5,000 years ago. Well, we've made it through a few longer days on the trail, but we're feeling strong, we're doing well, and the hiking has been really fantastic, amazing views, perhaps with the exception of today where there's been a lot more highway crossings than we'd really prefer, which makes us extra excited to arrive at our final accommodation for tonight. And the thing with tonight, it was actually the only option we had along the way, so we're not exactly sure what it's going to be like, but we're looking forward to checking it out. We're almost there. I think it's just around the corner on the left. And wow, what an amazing scenic location for our last night on the trail. Hello, hi. Well, we've just been welcomed by our very friendly host who's shown us around, and we're very happy with this accommodation after staying in some pretty quirky places along the way. This place seems very comfortable and clean, and perhaps most importantly, since there is basically nowhere to eat around here, she's laid out a nice dinner that we can heat up for ourselves whenever we're ready, which will probably be in about half an hour, so we can just relax for the rest of the evening and enjoy the view.
Well, I can't believe it. We have had 10 beautiful days on the trail, but this is our very last day. So we are just a few hours away from the gorgeous town of Bath, and I can't wait to get there because that really is supposed to be the big payoff for doing this trail from north all the way to the south. Now, we have been trying to give you guys some good tips as we went along the way, but today is a day when we really wanted to dive right into the details. First, let's talk about the accommodations. What we found on this trail is that each one was kind of quirkier than the last. We did have a couple truly unpleasant stays in places we would definitely not recommend. And usually that was because we really had no choice. That was the only stop as we were going along. But we also had a couple really excellent places. So the one that we just left last night was really such a treat. And then we also had one in, I think, the little village of King Stanley, and it was an immaculate place, beautifully decorated, very welcoming host, and the breakfast was absolutely amazing. Now, we know you guys always love hearing about the cost, so we wanted to give you a little breakdown for each of the components of our trip. With the accommodations, the marketplace price for the sort of mid-level type place that we were staying at, so sometimes it was an inn, sometimes it was an Airbnb, sometimes it was a B&B. These were typically 80 to 140 pounds. And I would say that the average was about 120 pounds. Now, you could step it up in a few of the villages and go with something that was a little bit more of a luxury option, which we didn't do. But if you did that, it would usually be in the neighborhood of 200 pounds plus. Now, for us, we actually paid an average across all of the nights of 100 pounds. And we were able to do this by being very strategic, cashing in credit card rebates. We also had some credit card points that we were able to use. We did a lot of deal hunting. If we found a place that we liked, we looked for it on multiple platforms. We went direct sometimes to save money. So that all really helped us out in terms of the accommodations. And I have to say that we were very pleased at that average that we were able to achieve. Food is, of course, one of the big reasons why we travel, and we were really hoping to get our fill of classic British dishes while we were here, and we did get to have some really great dishes. But I will say that overall there was quite varying quality as we went along. We tried our best to pick out restaurants on Google Maps that were very highly rated and would give us a guaranteed great meal, but sometimes we just had to make the best with what we had, and sometimes we just had to make the best with what was available at the local co-op store. Now, I have to be honest that the cost of food absolutely blew us away. We have traveled all over the world, done multi-day hikes in so many places through all this inflationary period, and yet we could not believe the price of food here in England. So for example, a main, and that could be for lunch or it could be for dinner, was typically 14 to 20 pounds, which is quite a lot, and obviously we were typically aiming to get at the 14-pound level. On average, it cost us 45 pounds per day to keep ourselves fed. And you have to remember that breakfast was typically included in the price of our accommodations. So that really only covers lunch and dinner. And in fact, for lunches, we were sort of doing the best we could with leftovers from breakfast or maybe hitting up a grocery store. So really, that's just the cost of dinner for the two of us.
Now, the other cost worth mentioning is for local transportation, getting from Heathrow to and from the start and end points. Now, based on the day and time we were traveling, this came to a whopping 95 pounds per person, which really does seem like a lot for what amounted to 2 hours of travel on a combination of trains and buses. So it's really one you want to make sure to include in your budget.
All right, costs aside, what did we actually think about this trail? Well, I would say that if you are someone who's looking for a true raw wilderness experience, this is definitely not the trail for you. There's always a little bit of civilization somewhere around us. But if you're looking for a walk where you can have a little bit of English culture, a little bit of history, and just some beautiful conditions, then this is a great option. We really love this trail. So for us, we thought it was pretty rare to have 10 amazing days of walking with hardly any time spent on roads. I think the trail has been really well designed to give you the best of the landscape. And it was really only in the last couple days as we've gotten closer to Bath that we've had to do some hair-raising highway crossings, but aside from that, it's been a truly wonderful experience.
Now, in terms of the time of year, we decided to come in April, although we were a little worried about that choice because it can be very rainy and a little chilly this time of year. But fortunately, we really just had one day of heavy rain and we really didn't have any crowds to deal with. So for us, springtime was the perfect choice. Well, today's walk has just been flying by and I'm actually a little bit sad it's going to be ending soon. But from here we can see Bath way down below, so I guess that means it's going to be a nice easy stroll downhill to the end of our hike.
Wow, we have made it 102 miles later. We have finally made it to the city of Bath. And I can tell you, it is quite a jolt to be in such a busy tourist center after spending the last 10 days going through all these sleepy little villages. But it was a wonderful hike and we highly recommend it. And if you love multi-day hikes through beautiful countryside and maybe even staying in a castle or two, there's another video that we can recommend. It's set in the Czech Republic and it's going through the Bohemian paradise, which is just as magical as it sounds.
Well, these stairs to the top are a little bit treacherous, but wow, just check out this view. We're in an area of the Czech Republic called the Bohemian Paradise. It's an area that's famous for spectacular rock formations, charming villages, and a whole lot of castles.